Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of the Power Down podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the LGBT games of the past, present, and, potentially the future. And today I am joined by Finn and Gina.
Hello.
Hello.
So, the reason that we're doing this is February is Pride Month. I mean, we should be proud that it's Pride Month for February. Obviously, the world's in lockdown right now, so I don't think there'll be many celebrations about it, but...
Yeah, it's LGBT month.
Is it LGBT History Month?
That's the one,
like
LGBT History Month.
Oh,
but,
okay.
if we're going by, when we celebrate Pride normally, it's normally September time in Leicester.
Yeah.
We have a different Pride to everyone else because we special.
We special like that. I mean, well, we say that. We didn't have Pride last year because COVID was the thing.
Yeah, we probably won't have it this year either.
Exactly.
No.
But since it is LGBT History Month, we thought we'd go into some of the games from the past and present, and like Ash said, potentially future, of LGBT games or games that have LGBT characters in. And actually, having done some research, there's way more than I thought there was.
Yeah, I
which
noticed that
pleasantly
too.
surprised about.
Yeah.
I started off with 1, 2, and I was like, oh, that doesn't only know. And then you're like, oh, but that character's got that in there. And oh, that game's got that in there.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
games of the past was a little hard to do because there wasn't a lot.
I mean, there was. I've done a little bit of research on the history of it as well.
Oh, right, so you're just going to march on my territory. Cheers for that.
Well, I thought that's what I was going to be doing.
No, you're doing present.
No, I was doing history. I've already done the history bit.
No, you were doing present.
I was doing the history bit.
Oh, my God.
Mine's sort of present, so I think we all got a bit mixed up.
Oh, dear.
But hey, as long as we've all got something to say, it should be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so the first game that I'm going to talk about, and apparently it's known as the earliest computer game to focus on LGBT themes, it's called Caper in the Castro. It is a murder mystery video game developed by CM Ralph and released in 1989, so 32 years ago. It is the earliest known computer game to focus on LGBT themes. The game was originally released for Mac computers and distributed freely on bulletin board systems as charityware to raise money for the AIDS epidemic. So it actually has, a very significant part of history.
That's great.
Just to add on to that, and I also did a little bit of research on this as well and found you are correct, it is one of the earliest LGBT related games. It was basically made, as you said, in the middle of the AIDS crisis. And the main character herself is actually one member of the LGBT group. She's a lesbian special investigator, like a police investigator.
It's a single-player point-and-click game.
That's it. That's the one I was looking at. And the main character's name has basically, you know how we had that thing back in the past where it's you have to name a boat and Boaty McBoatface 1. Her name is basically Lesbian McLesbian.
No, it's actually Tracker McDyke.
Yeah, exactly. You see, it's basically the late 80s version of Boaty McBoatface.
A lesbian private detective who must find her kidnapped friend and drag queen Tessie LaFemme.
I didn't get that. I didn't know she was called Tessie LaFemme.
To accomplish this, the player examines various locations on the Castro Street to search for information on LaFemme's disappearance. The setting is based on the historically gay San Francisco neighborhood, the Castro. So, again, I didn't find a whole lot in regards to the actual gameplay of it, bar that it was a point-and-click adventure game, but it would be for back in those days. But yeah, like I said, it was distributed freely, but there was apparently notes within the game saying that a donation towards the AIDS epidemic would be really appreciated in lieu of payment. So the people who made this game did it for nothing.
Yeah, no, I get that.
See, I knew nothing about that, never heard of it, so that's quite interesting to learn.
I've seen a picture of it online, and it's on a floppy disk. That's how old it is. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so old.
However, also in 1989, CM Ralph released an alternative version of the game called Murder on Main Street for commercial sale. The version swapped out the main characters' names and other details to exclude LGBT themes, though it could sell to a publisher that might not have been interested in LGBT.
So basically, he cleansed
games.
it of anything to do with LGBT.
So Heiser Software sold this version of the game in mail order catalogs. So it had a really, really positive message, and because of censorship and people not being so open about it back in the days.
Yeah.
Oh my, backtracked. It literally got, I'm going to use the word cleansed because that is how it is described.
It got sanitized and made it generic face.
Yeah. So they just made it a point.
Straight wash. That's the one. That's the word that we're gonna pander to now.
I seriously doubt it still is around, but Heiser Software, or a company that's based off Heiser Software, if you are still around, shame on you for your history. Because I mean, if it isn't around, then yeah, that's why. Because people are like, what the fuck.
The thing is, back then, I know it wasn't like that long ago, but even...
Oh, we've come a long way.
Even that far, we've come a long way. And back then, it was, I don't want to say taboo, but it sort of
it
was
wasn't
a little
spoken
bit taboo.
about.
It wasn't spoken about. It was a different
So I think having an
situation.
LGBT video game in the mainstream media would have just been unheard of at the time. Not so much now, we know better, but...
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
surprise me too much.
you say that, but like whenever there is a new game that gets released that has a LGBT character in it, the news is always like, oh, they put that in there. Oh God, how can they be pushing that against our children? Blah, blah, blah.
And it
that
always,
same
always
argument
gets very mixed reactions, which is
does.
something that I'll touch on later when we talk about modern games with it as well.
Of course.
I mean, like, it's not about gaming, to literally just to reaffirm that, like, little chain of thought. Do you remember the outcry of Beauty and the Beast?
Oh, with LeFou.
Oh, because
Just because
LeFou-
they danced together, they did one twirl at the end of a film.
To be honest, I don't give a
If you
stuff
weren't
about
watching
LeFou. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Like, he was not part of the story whatsoever. He's a side character.
No.
The thing
Just
is, if you
leave him
weren't
the fuck alone.
watching it properly, you wouldn't have even noticed.
No.
Kids wouldn't have
I
noticed
didn't
that.
notice.
And
I didn't notice
fucking
first. I had to look
Gaston
out
was
for it.
played by Luke Evans, a very proud gay man. Like, talk about you know, picking and choosing
Double
your moments.
standards.
Literally, and even the twirl, it could have been misconstrued as they were just dancing by. Honestly, you know. So
I like that movie, and I like the fact that they did try and show something with LeFou, but I couldn't give a fuck about the controversy
yes.
because it wasn't part of the
But
story.
like you were saying, but
Yeah.
like with the thing is, and it's very horrible to say, and I'm going to have a very, very controversial point of view here. Again,
Actually, with a
we'll
controversial
see
point of
what you
view?
think. Unfortunately, with the whole free speech aspect of it, people are free to love the way that they want to love. But unfortunately, with that, you have to accept that people, even though it's really shitty, that opens up the thing that they're allowed to practice their intolerances.
You do, however, freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you are more than welcome to express your opinion on someone else's lifestyle. You can have that opinion. No one is stopping you having that opinion.
Yep.
But you cannot stop that person from defending themselves
No.
and
Yeah.
also having an opinion about your opinion. Freedom of speech works both ways.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that's one of my favourite sayings that I've ever heard. Freedom
Yeah.
of speech is not freedom of consequence.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can have your opinion, but you have to be prepared for other people to have opinions about that opinion. So did you find any other old games that have LGBT themes?
I
Yes. Oh.
I
okay.
did.
Go on then.
So I looked into like what was the very first video game to show anything that was LGBTQ plus themed in the game at all. We've obviously spoken about Casper and the Castro being the first LGBTQ plus main character. But the first video game to have somebody under that umbrella in the game was Moonmist, which was a text adventure interactive novel that was released in 1986.
All right, so it was the very, very original Dream Daddy simulator.
Pretty much, yeah. It was a murder mystery text adventure game, and it contained a character by the name of Vivian Penreath, which is the poshest name I've ever heard in my entire life, who was an artist who was acting coldly towards one of the characters because she's secretly in love with her, and she was marrying a man. So that was the first kind of LGBTQ plus type character in a video game. And it also predates Birdo from Super Mario Brothers by 2 years. Birdo was in 1988. So yeah, that was Moonmist, the very first game to ever have a gay character in it.
Sorry, I was just adding one onto mine that I remembered.
Yeah.
I can just hear Gina furiously typing in the background.
Sorry, I was trying to do it quietly.
How dare they call her Vivian?
We can do it in editing, don't worry. Not much to...
Guys, have you got something to say about LGBT?
The game that I came across, which again, we're going a little further into the... So from 1989, we're going on to 1992, to a game called, get this, Gayblade.
I thought that was a playground slur.
Honestly. So, Gayblade is an action role-playing video game developed by Ryan Best and released in 1992. It is thought to be the earliest LGBT video game, but it was preceded by 1989's Caper in the Castro. In 2020, Netflix documentary High Score, Best said that all of his copies of the game were lost during a relocation. The game was later found with help of the LGBTQ video game archive. As of 2020, the game is playable via an emulation of Internet Archive. So the premise of the game is the player has to fight hordes of enemies, including redheads and homophobic skinheads. The final boss of the game is a homophobic conservative commentator and politician, Pat Buchanan. So essentially, I want to say it was like LGBT Streets of Rage.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Did Streets of Rage have like a gay stereotype as a villain? And wasn't one of the characters like a leather daddy?
Yeah,
I'm sure I've seen that somewhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was, but I don't think it was really like.
I think I read somewhere that they had
prevalent.
it as a villain, but in America it was changed for something completely different.
But yeah, so this game got some recognition very, very recently because it was featured in a 2020 Netflix documentary. So yeah, so essentially it was LGBTQ Streets of Rage, which now I know that the game is playable via possible emulation, I might try and find it.
Yeah, I was about to say that would be pretty cool to play.
The 2020 Netflix documentary series High Score featured Ryan Best and Gabe Blade in its third episode and early RPGs. At the time of production in 2019, Best had lost all copies during a move from Hawaii to San Francisco years before, and he had been looking for any since, which he had then told the show's producers as part of their research. The production team searched online, including contacting the LGBTQ video game archive to seek out footage and copies. During post-production, the producers were contacted by the, forgive me for pronouncing this, Schwell's Gay Museum in Berlin, who had a copy. Wow, a gay museum in Berlin. That's, wow, they've come a long way. Who had a copy that they were able to share with the producers, who after working on it returned it to Best. This was noted briefly in the episode and expanded up in news reports the day the series released. Subsequently, they worked with the LGBTQ video game archive, the Strong National Museum of Play, and the Internet Archive to preserve the game and provide the game in both an emulated form and as a downloadable version. Wow, so there is actually, like, I want to say, if you want to say museums or archives, but that are dedicated to video games. I know it's an art media, but you never really think about it in that aspect, do you?
Well, video games have been around since the late 70s, so it makes sense.
Yeah, but you don't think of, like, you think of, Leonardo da Vinci's, paintings in the Louvre or wherever it was. I forget what the famous... yeah. So, but then you don't think of, like, video games being in a place like that.
Well, that opens up a whole new conversation of what video games are as art, which they are. End of story.
It takes talent to make one, and it takes talent to design one to make it look good. So I would say it's an art. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a form of entertainment, the same way movies and music. It's the same.
And like literature was back in the day as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the sad thing is, it's only single player though. I'd love to be able to play with my friends and beat up homophobes. Mainly, those were the two that I found in regards to, like...
Really, really early stuff.
Yeah, like, there was quite a substantial gap then until the late 90s, early 2000s. And again, I assumed that Finn was doing present, which we had discussed, so I thought he'd carry on from there.
In between, like 2000s era.
I didn't realise this at the time because I thought we were still doing the history of it because that's what I researched last time. But that's fine. I mean, that's fine. Do you have anything that you can add to that? So
not necessarily the older ones. All of mine are sort of modern ones. Some of them are a little bit older. Most of mine are from like the 2010s and onwards. Did we find anything from the 2000s?
I was going to say, because it was one of the things I was going to mention earlier on, because when I was thinking about like LGBTQ plus characters, my first thought went to Mass Effect because that's one of the games it's one of those most popular games that people always talk about.
Yeah.
Especially when 3 came out, a lot of people were like going, oh, there's a gay character in there, and then a whole kind of blow up and furor about that. Obviously, most of it was more about the ending of the game, but there was also a controversy about having a gay character in there.
That was one of mine that I wrote down as well. I found that actually, even in the first instalment, if you were a female protagonist, you could get with an alien called Liana.
You could.
So even in the first one, there was LGBT representation if you chose to take the game that way. And yes, like Finn says in Mass Effect 3, the player can choose to start a same-sex relationship with Kaiden or Caden.
Caden.
I'm not sure. Is it Caden?
It's Caden.
The general consensus seems to be that overall, Mass Effect as a franchise or as a series of games is really LGBT friendly.
It is, and like I said, from 2, 3 onwards, the protagonist can choose to be bisexual, both male and female humans and aliens. And I can't remember what the sexuality is when it's like you don't care about the gender. It's
pansexual.
Pansexual as well. It could also be called pansexual as well because you also can pursue a relationship with Geth, I believe, who is a robot. But yeah, it's completely LGBT friendly, that game.
Very much like the Sims effect, because you can pursue romances with any gender.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because Sims originally you couldn't do that. I think it was only Sims 2 or Sims 3 when you could do it with the same person.
I think it was 2 onwards, but I'm not sure. But that was one of mine as well. So it basically goes without saying that.
So I'm just reading off everyone else's street. Sorry.
The Sims as a whole now, anyway, obviously it's come a long way. But now, if you think like Sims 3 and 4 and potentially Sims 5 when it comes out as well, you can pretty much have whatever type of relationship, whatever type of person you like. You can create basically anything. They're still adding certain things to make it better. Like I know recently they added more, it's not LGBT related, but they did add more skin tones.
Yeah.
Because they had a little bit of criticism with the darker skin tones not being very...
I remember that, because it
not
would have
having
been...
a wide range.
It would have been Sims 2, because you could have a relationship with an alien, so therefore pan-romantics.
I remember reading something very recently in regards to, like you were saying, skin tones. People also raise things about, like, disability. You know, like, because I think I read somewhere along the lines of, like, people were saying, well, why aren't there people with crutches or wheelchairs or, you know, and it's a very fair point. I imagine, it would be insanely hard to
Not
animate.
necessarily, like Leicester in GTA 5 is...
No, but, like, to be able to work...
physically disabled. Doesn't fall into the same umbrella we're talking about, but yeah.
But you never know. They are working on Sims 5, and
Yeah.
we don't know much about it at the moment. And they do tend to listen to that sort of criticism. The only criticism they don't seem to have listened to so far is that...
Stop cutting content.
Yes.
Not necessarily, but height. In Sims 3, you could have short Sims or tall Sims.
Tall Tims.
Tall Tims. And they took that out for Sims 4.
They did.
So all of the Sims are just the same height in Sims 4, and that was a bit little... Because I prefer Sims 4 to Sims 3, except for that.
But
Yeah.
going back to it in a sense, like, I don't actually see, in regards to the Sims, they never address it in the sense of sexuality. They just...
That's probably a good thing as well. They don't make it overt.
It's just...
Everyone appears essentially to be pan, because they don't describe the characters as gay, lesbian, because you could just pursue relationships with either gender.
Well, there are mods that you can put onto Sims 4 that let you pick... You know, like in Sims 3, you could pick what the Sims are attracted to.
Yeah.
Like their preferences.
Yeah.
They took that out of Sims 4, but there are mods that you can add on that introduce that back in.
Okay.
So you can, but I think, like in Sims 3, you could pick what sort of appearance that the sim prefers, what gender they prefer, or if they prefer both. They did take that out of Sims 4, but I don't think it was necessarily a negative thing to take it out, because they just made it so that you can just choose.
Yeah.
Or however you play the game, that's how it's going to be played.
I like that. I like the fact that it's an option, but it's not kind of signposted as like, we've got gay characters in our thing now. It's like, it's just like, it's an option if you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fable very much had the same thing, that you could pursue. They were a bit more thingy though, because like if you were covered in scars, for example, people wouldn't marry you because you were associated with being evil. But they had the thing of from pretty much game one, didn't they, that you could pursue relationships with either gender. I always love that game when your spouses met each other.
So I've got quite a few modern games that I found or already knew.
Go for it.
So the obvious one that we all know is Overwatch.
Yes.
We've got Tracer, who we've pretty much known the entire time that she was gay.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, Soldier 76 was revealed as gay in a short story that they released.
Yep.
Which I actually I didn't see that short story, and I've been a little bit out of touch with Overwatch, so I actually only found this out when you, Finn, mentioned it the other day, and then I looked it up to find out when they revealed it.
That was one of those other ones where they introduced a gay character and everyone goes crazy because they're like, oh my god, how could you bring a gay character in?
I never understood the controversy behind it, or like I'm not even going to say the hype, because in regard to the game itself, it's not like it has a story mode or anything.
No,
it's got
it has
story elements, but not in the actual game.
Yeah, each character has lore, and they have their own backstories. It's not necessarily a story in the game per se, apart from when you get like the events where it's PvE.
Yeah.
But it's more to do with the lore. A lot of Overwatch fans that are really into Overwatch know all of the lore, and they know all of the backstories to the characters and how they connect.
Because for me, it was just the case of like, when I heard it, I'm like, it's great for the inclusion, but I don't see how it's relevant.
I think the thing you're thinking of is, it's great that it's inclusion, but why is the flora about it relevant?
Yeah.
It's like, there's been gay characters in it before, why are you put up in arms because another character is shown as being not straight?
Well, I can't wait for the day when it's just normal.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be announced. It is just a normal thing. They are people They just happen to be attracted to this gender or that gender or no gender or all genders.
I prefer games like that where it's not signposted. It's kind of like, oh, that's an interesting thing as well.
It's just normal and nobody reacts to it. It just is.
Exactly.
So
the only person reacting to it is you.
Yeah, exactly. The next one I found was Tekken.
Tekken?
Oh.
I'm surprised by this too.
Oh, God.
Can you guess which character?
Are you guessing or are you doing something else?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I remember reading this and no, it's gone.
So in Tekken 6, they introduced a character called Leo.
Yeah.
Who looks like quite a feminine man, or a young man, quite feminine.
Yeah.
But actually, all throughout like Tekken 6 and whatever, they were using pretty gender neutral pronouns for them. And then it wasn't until Tekken Tag Tournament 2 when some female pronouns were used for them. And then it was revealed that the name's actually Eleanor, and Leo is short for Eleanor. But it's most likely, considering they use the gender-neutral pronouns and everything, that Leo's actually non-binary.
I mean, yeah, that would work, yeah.
I quite like that because they didn't necessarily make a big deal out of it. They didn't necessarily make a big announcement. It was just, this is a person, we're going to use gender-neutral pronouns for them. This is Eleanor, but Leo.
Just to go back to the Overwatch Soldier 76 controversy, the whole reason people went up in arms, it wasn't a big announcement saying, oh, by the way, he's gay. It was a comic that was made, a short comic, and the last scene had him, I think, looking at his wallet or something like that, and he had a picture of another man in his wallet.
So he was looking at photos, and Anna, however you pronounce it, I'm not sure. She saw him looking at these photos, and she asked him about the guy, and if he'd, I think it was a man called Vincent. And she asked if he'd spoken to him recently or heard from him or something, and he said that he was married now and stuff like that, and he was happy that he was happy, and it was very obvious that it was an old flame.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a big announcement. It was just in a little comic, like you say. And it was just, she was just asking him about his old flame, if he'd heard from him since. And he's like, no, he's happily married. I'm happy that he's happy.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So I think they handled that quite well.
They did. I was going to say, it's not been overtly mentioned in the lore, but it's pretty obvious by the way that he dresses. I was going to say Roadhog is a contender for being in the LGBTQ plus umbrella. I'm just saying.
Because...
You hope.
Because of the way he's dressed and stuff like that, the way he handles... He looks like a leather daddy, is all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to out him, but he looks like a leather daddy, so I'm going to put him under the umbrella too.
God, I hope not. I'm gay and I'm like, no. You can keep that one.
I'm just saying what I've seen.
I'm saying what you hope more like.
So another game that had a trans character was Dragon Age Inquisition.
Ooh.
That had a trans character called Krem.
Okay.
Who was born female, but hid his gender while he was in the military for years before coming out very unapologetically as trans. And also in that game, I believe the protagonist can also have same-sex relationships. Okay. I'm not sure how, because I've not played it. But from what I read, it is an option.
I've known that two of the characters in Dragon Age can have a same-sex relationship. I think it's one of the male characters you meet, and also it's not a human character, it's the guy with the horns. Apparently they have a relationship as well, but the guy with the horns is also seen as quite masculine as well.
There's an obvious one as well that it was a big deal when it was announced, both for positive and negative attention, I suppose, but The Last of Us, when Ellie was revealed to be gay in the Left Behind installment, that was pretty big news. That was everywhere at the time, and it had all sorts of attention.
And I've seen like gameplay of that game, and I think they've handled it really, really well. It's a really beautiful story as well.
Yeah,
like you said, the way that video games need to go about it is, like Gina was saying, is that they just need to see it as portrayal of normality. That it's not a big reveal, and like
I don't want to play a video game and have a character say I'm gay or I'm pan or I'm bi, something like that. Just have them live their life.
Well, that's why most of the games that do include LGBT do it that way. It's actually the media and the public that make a big deal out of it. Most games will just act like it's normal.
Yeah. Which is how I prefer it to happen. Just have it as normal.
There was one I can think of that didn't so much, and it had some negative attention towards it, but it depends on the way you think about it. So Persona 4 there's a character called Kanji. It's never explicitly revealed that he's gay, But in the game, they all have shadows, which are
Okay.
basically like, it's hard to explain, but their shadows are a version of themselves
Yeah.
that play on their insecurities and play on their weaknesses and stuff like that to try and tear them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kanji's shadow heavily suggests it and calls him a lot of homophobic, not necessarily slurs, but
Yep.
Connotations.
And yeah, it heavily suggests it and uses it as a way of sort of playing on his insecurities to tear him down, like the shadows do. Some people saw it as a negative representation of LGBT character simply because of the language used,
Yeah.
and because he seemed to be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I feel like it can also be interpreted as, and not many games do it, but it showed the struggle of being in the closet and being in a situation in your life where you don't feel like you can come out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always that
You
thing.
feel
It's
like you'll be judged.
You don't feel like you are normal like everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah, that
Well,
whole side.
I mean,
that whole side of it.
it's only just popped into my head, and I can't believe that I thought about this. But one topic that we haven't discussed, Gina, did you play Nier?
I haven't.
So they had a character called Kaine. Now, Kaine was portrayed, you might have seen the images of her, she was always portrayed in wearing lingerie, very, skirt, leggings, tits out. She was always portrayed as very feminine, but it was actually revealed, and if you look at the way her character is made, I hate to say it, in the crotch area, she's actually intersex. And she, like you, Gina, so she's possessed by a shade, which you could call a shadow, and the shade is of a man, and he says, oh, you know it's a secret, you should just cut it off.
Wow.
Yeah, and like, she portrays herself as highly feminine, even though she's technically a boy. Yeah, so, and that was a major reveal when everyone was like, okay, we're looking at her character, because again, she walked around in panties and stockings, and like, it was always bulged out, but you had to notice it. And again, during the story, the shade would talk to her, saying like, everyone thinks you're a freak, and just cut it off and be done with it, and it was actually revealed that she was intersex, and she used like walking around in lingerie and showing her hyper femininity, even though she technically wasn't female.
Do you want to explain what intersex means, if you know?
So intersex is a term condition where you are born with either both sets or are born with characteristics of both genders. Now I know that's the binary term, forgive me
I
for
think
that.
I've also heard as well, like, it's either you're born with both, none, or part of one of them, or both.
So again, so like I said, so she was, everything was feminine, she had breasts, the waist, like all typical feministic characteristics, but then she was born with a penis, so she was intersex.
Oh, okay.
So, but like, when that was revealed, that was like, oh my god, this beautiful woman isn't actually a woman, and I don't want to use that term, but that's the way it was.
You mean like, isn't the way that she's presented isn't how she was born?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm trying to say?
The way she portrayed herself isn't the truth, if you will. But, I mean, like I said, I know many people who are trans. Again, I don't want to use the term passing and all that sort of stuff, but quite a lot of the times, I'd be like,
I don't think
I
if you're in that
you.
position as well, it's nothing to do with like passing as another person. It's feeling comfortable as the other gender. Nothing to do with like, I'm doing it because I want to pass as that person. It's more that I want to feel comfortable as that person.
But the point I was making was, like I said, like they were like, everyone was like, oh my god, she's a girl, and then it was revealed that she wasn't a girl, and it just goes to show that actually looks are only skin deep.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, it was never addressed, like it was never confirmed, but then it was, because like after about a few months of speculation, the creators came out and said, no, she is an intersex character.
Yeah, they're going to get the questions, and eventually you do have to answer the questions.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
but
it gets too
again,
much.
So like I said, this
that's pretty groundbreaking
beautiful...
as well, 'cause I don't think I can think of another intersex character
I
in
certainly
anything
can't.
ever.
It was horrible because her story was very sad. Like I said, like everyone treated her badly. She was treated as a freak, and she could never understand why. She was always very obnoxious, very rude to people. She swore a lot. She was always very angry, and it turns out she was angry because she felt like people didn't see her for her.
Yeah, And do you know what? I think representation like that and like Kanji in Persona 4 are equally just as important as the more confident representation, because not everyone is out and proud.
Yeah, not everyone's coming
Not everyone
out.
is confident. No, exactly. Not everyone is completely confident within themselves. And I don't want to say lifestyle is not a lifestyle. It's just your life.
Yeah.
But not everyone is complete. Not everyone's out. Not everyone is comfortable sharing it with everyone. And I think they deserve to be represented just as much as out and proud people do.
Yeah.
That is something that I attest to as well, because a lot of the times in media, particularly like TV shows, stuff like that, if a character is signposted or is revealed to be not straight and being in any other gender, it's always kind of a rush to say like, okay, well, we need to get them to come out, we need to get them to do this. It's like, no, get them to come out when it feels like they want to come out, rather than trying to rush them to come out.
There's one program that handled it perfectly, and that was Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Rose, because she didn't have to do it, she wasn't forced to do it. And
Is that Rosa?
Yeah, and then she just went, yeah, I am, you know.
It's like, what of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very weird, isn't it? Because I know we're talking about video games, but actually there were video game spin-offs of this. But I mean, I don't know if Gina watched it when she was younger, but obviously Sailor Moon.
I know what
know
you're trying to say as well.
Yes, so
say.
there were 2 Sailor Senshi. In Japan, they were called Michiru and Haruka. And then in England, I think they were called Michelle and... Oh, God, what was... Michelle? Oh, I can't remember the last one. But either way, so 2 of the Sailor Senshi were lesbian lovers.
Yeah.
And in the original Japanese and in Japan, it's very open out there, because they even had, even in Sailor Moon, they had homosexual villains as well. And over there, in the original, it was portrayed that it was never confirmed, but they admitted that they had feelings for each other. But then over here in the West, they were changed to cousins. And it made the scenes very, very awkward.
Yeah, it would do, actually.
You know,
was it very kind of like desensitized and stuff like that, very kind of sanitized? It wasn't kind of over.
Well, no, but there'd be scenes with them like holding hands and stuff, and they'd just go, we're cousins, and we're like, okay, yeah, fine, we can hold hands and stuff like that. But it's amazing how in different parts of the world representation is the way it is portrayed. Because, you know, like say with anime, for example, it's pretty massive over there in regards to like say Japan. But then like in mainstream media with like soaps and stuff like that, like they don't discuss it at all. It's weird how one place can have 2 extremes of both.
I'm just going to go on a little tangent here. It's probably going to get edited out, but screw it. I have a bone to pick with one of the soaps, in particular EastEnders. Ben had to come out twice.
Okay.
I don't know why he had to come out twice, but he came out twice.
Fair enough.
He was in the closet, then he came out, then somehow he was back in the closet again and had to come out a second time. I was like, that's just lazy writing.
Unfortunately, I think there is still a long way to go in regards to representation in the media of LGBT characters. I think there is a long way to go in the way that they handle the representation of LGBT characters.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, I'd like to get to a point, like you said, where it's considered normal is such a horrible word, but
Normalised. Normalised, like asking someone their age. Just like, it's a normal.
Yeah, it'll be nice when it is normalised. Like, these are just people. They're in a relationship.
Yes.
They
Get
happen
over
to
it.
be 2 men, they happen to be 2 women.
They
If
happen
this
to be
person
neither,
happens to not want to have a relationship at all with anyone.
Exactly.
Yes.
I can't wait for the day when it's just normalised and it doesn't have to be announced.
Someone might
Nobody has
have
to
romantic
announce that they're
feelings but don't
straight.
want to act upon those things, and that's okay.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't think I've ever actually seen asexuality portrayed in mainstream media in any form.
Not so much mainstream, but I'm sure you guys have heard me and Tasha talk about Lore Olympus
Briefly.
before, which
Yeah.
it's a web comic on
Yeah.
Webtoons. It's written and designed by someone called Rachel Smythe, and it's basically about the Greek gods and goddesses in modern day. The main 2 characters are Hades and Persephone, so it's like a modern retelling of their romance, I suppose. It is a romance webtoon. She does have, so Athena and, oh god, what's her name? Hestia. So Athena and Hestia, which are 2 goddesses in that show, in Greek mythology. In Lore Olympus, they are a lesbian couple. And Hecate, I believe, has been not announced but confirmed to be asexual.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily mainstream media, but there are some medias, but it's not mainstream. But if you look on Webtoons, it is the first one that comes up.
Yeah, okay.
It is the most popular webcomic on Webtoons, which is getting more and more popular nowadays.
There is a question I did want to ask, because I haven't asked it yet. What was everybody's first LGBTQ plus character they ever met in gaming? The first one they ever encountered? Can you remember it.
No, I can't say that I have.
I can't remember. Mine might have been Kanji from Persona 4.
Yeah.
So I initially thought it was Mass Effect, but then I was thinking in my head and I was like, actually no, this game I'm going to mention came out well before Mass Effect, which was randomly GTA Vice City Stories. And that contains a transsexual film director called Rennie Wasselweyer. It's not the best representation of transsexuals, though, to be honest. Then again, GTA takes a hit at everybody. But in GTA Vice City Story, and provides the main character with missions towards the middle and the end point of the game. But his character is played mostly for laughs. He's presented as being absurd and a bit unhinged on multiple occasions. It's probably not the best representation, but it's the first kind of LGBTQ plus character I'd ever seen in video games.
I tell you one that I guarantee will have been the first one, but you have no idea.
Okay.
Go on.
Did you ever play Mario when you were a kid?
Are you going to say Birdo?
Birdo.
Whoa.
I mentioned Birdo earlier on. How did I not mention
Birdo's
that?
transgender.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. We just assumed that she was female.
Yeah.
Because she was pink and had eyelashes.
It even says in the game manual for one Mario Kart's like Birdette is a man but prefers to dress as a woman or something like
A
that.
boy who thinks he's a girl.
A boy who thinks it's a girl, yeah, that's what it is. So Birdo probably, but then again, I say that, but then again, I didn't play that many Mario games back in the day that had Birdo in it, so I'm still going to go for Rennie.
Yeah.
Look at Nintendo making history.
So there is another game that we touched on in privately a little while ago, and we have played on the channel, but a long time ago, and nobody would have remembered it.
Yeah.
But Life is Strange, so we talked about that, and we talked about maybe streaming that at some point in February, which could be cool. So it's hinted that the main character Max may be LGBTQ plus in some way, and Chloe, it's heavily hinted that Chloe and Rachel, who is her missing best friend, the way that she remembers her and how dedicated she is to finding her, that sort of hints that they may have had romantic feelings. And then when you play I don't know if it's the second one or a spin-off, I can't remember, but there's one called Before the Storm, which is a prequel based around Chloe and Rachel's friendship. Or relationship, and that goes deeper into it. So that was quite a good one for LGBTQ plus characters. However, I think one of my favourite games that has the most, if not the most, LGBT characters in it, and it's one that we all like, the franchise anyway, is Borderlands.
Yeah.
We have Athena and Janie Springs are in a relationship in the pre-sequel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Axton in Borderlands 2 is bisexual. Torg is also bisexual.
Yeah.
Moxie has had several sexual partners of both sexes, and she consistently flirts with the protagonist no matter whether they're male or female.
Yeah.
No matter which character you play as, she will flirt with them. And there's a whole DLC about Hammerlock and Wainwright's wedding in Borderlands 3. And in Borderlands 2, Tiny Tina actually confesses to liking Maya and asks if she likes her back.
Yeah.
So there's loads in Borderlands.
I like that though. I like Borderlands as it is, but that's just kind of added an extra little bit of like, oh, this game's amazing.
Yeah.
On there.
And then we've also got obviously Dream Daddy. We mentioned earlier, but that's
How did I not mention Dream Daddy? How did I not mention Dream Daddy? The game that brought me to the bloody channel.
The epitome of gay games.
I mean,
Is Dream Daddy the dad dating simulator?
yeah.
Interactive graphic novel, pretty much.
Yes. And spinning off from that as well, there's a game that I don't think it's out yet. Let me just find when it's actually being released.
Okay.
So it's a game that it's not made by the same people as Dream Daddy, but I believe it's the same artists.
Okay.
It's called The Office Type.
I know what you mean.
I'm not entirely sure when the release date is. I don't know if they've announced the release date yet, but I believe there is a demo.
Nathan mentioned this ages ago.
Nathan would know when the release date is. I can't find it on Google. It's either already released or it's releasing soon, but I know for sure that there was definitely a demo on it. So basically, it's similar to Dream Daddy, but all of the potential partners and the characters sort of represent office stationery. So they're in human form, but they represent different stationery.
Okay.
And I believe all of them, you can choose whether they're male, female, or non-binary.
Okay.
And they all have 3 different character designs depending on which option you pick.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I really want to play Office Type, but I don't know when it's out. Nathan will know.
If only we could skip to the forward into the future when Nathan comes back to ask him and then put it back in the in the podcast.
We'll put it in the description of the video.
In the description.
And we can always put a link to it or whatever. I think it was a Kickstarter. I'm not sure.
Good old Kickstarter.
I might be wrong on that. Yeah, it's the same artist that did Dream Daddy, so it's in the same sort of style. But yeah, they're all office equipment.
That is amazing.
Sounds pretty good.
It certainly does.
I was going to say that the only thing I have left on my sheet that I've researched was like common tropes of how LGBTQ plus people are represented in video games.
Yeah.
But I think we've pretty much gone over most of them.
I mean, overall, in your guys' opinion,
Yeah.
would you say that not necessarily just in gaming, or you can give an answer for gaming, but then give an answer for media in general as well?
Mm-hmm.
Overall, do you think that LGBTQIA plus community has a more positive representation or a more negative representation, just sort of ratio, like
Negative.
overall? Do you think?
Negative.
I would say
Because
it's improving. It used to be very stereotypical, very kind
Yeah.
of like if you are in that umbrella, you're either comic relief or you're the villain. But now it's kind of getting a little bit more kind of it's improving now. You've got characters that are main characters that they're flawed, but they're flawed in a way that doesn't relate to their sexuality and makes them stronger characters.
Like, for example, as you all know, I'm still a massive fan of Will and Grace. Like, and that was pretty groundbreaking back in the 90s, you know. But I've rewatched it recently and realised how damaging that show is.
Those sorts of shows do not age well.
No.
I still like Friends. I still love Friends to this day. But when you're watching it now as an adult who knows more than you did back then, some of the things they did were very, very problematic.
Yeah,
I
and
still
very
love it because I
toxic.
can appreciate that back then.
Yeah.
Those sorts of jokes weren't taboo.
Yeah.
They weren't looked down on, so it was funny at the time. Because that sort of thing wasn't. And as a kid, you don't think about that sort of thing.
No.
Watching it back now, I can think, oh, if this had come out nowadays, they never would have got away with that.
But what I was like going to touch upon in regards to like Will and Grace, like Will, for example, who is a proud and out gay man, he's always looking for a significant other, but he's always to go to the gym all the time, and we can't wear this, and we have to eat that, and if we don't exercise this, then we're never going to be. And I've realised, looking back at it, actually that's really, really bad.
Yeah.
Because like he's so, and again, it could be on purpose that like, you know, you've got to love yourself before you can love another person. It could be that could be the message.
It's not very well handled though.
Yeah,
if it's
but
that.
like just looking back at it, going, wow, that is a really unhealthy way to look at yourself.
I would say as well, like one of the common things that's in a lot of LGBT focused stuff is that if there's a character where it's got not just LGBTQ plus characters, it's got straight characters in there, the LGBTQ plus characters are always seen as being in a relationship that's suffering or it's non-committal or they're having issues, whereas the straight couples are just, they're fine. Like the husband might have not done the dishes once, but like whenever it's somebody who's not in a straight relationship, they're having relationship issues, and that's just not true all the time. Everybody has relationship issues, not just people under that umbrella.
Yeah, another bad representation I think of, I would say gay men more than anything.
Are you going to touch on the AIDS epidemic?
Right, so okay, we'll wait. Go on, read us.
I was thinking, I can't think of a specific example, but a lot of sort of 90s, early 2000s sitcoms, they would portray gay men as like serial, just not settling down and just going from partner to partner and be overly sexual and just
serial sluts.
And that was the trope.
Yeah.
That was a trope for quite a while in sitcoms.
Whoa.
Was that the gay man would just go from partner to partner to partner and never settle down.
Talking like Will and Grace again, that's what Jack did. That was his entire character.
Exactly.
New boyfriend every week.
And, I mean, going on to a slightly more serious topic, I was touching him on the AIDS epidemic, you know, granted, okay, the unprotected gay sex thing of the 80s is what brought it into mainstream media, but I hate to say it, and, like, obviously, AIDS is associated with gay men, but, you know, it's horrible to say it, but because of third world countries, actually, infection rates in heterosexual couples are so much higher, and unfortunately it's still portrayed that way, that AIDS is a gay person's
only for
disease.
somebody who's not straight. Not straight people can't get it or something like that. Which is
Well,
really,
there's the
really
whole thing
old.
about, not necessarily in media, but there was the whole thing about gay men not being able to give blood.
Yeah, no, I've
Which I
heard
think
that as
they've
well.
recently changed.
I'm
sure
kicked,
they've recently changed it.
Well, I kicked off about this because I went to do it one time. I went fucking mental at the nurses, and I feel bad because I look back at it now and realise that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't have been their
wasn't
fault.
their fault.
Yeah, but like the rules were, you can't have had oral sex with a man in the last 6 months. You can't have had anal intercourse in the last year.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this, by the way. I've never actually given
I mean,
blood.
this isn't media. This is obviously
This is going wider
I'm
world.
I'm sure that I read
very
that they changed it
recently,
very recently, and you could.
because they're realizing, oh shit, people aren't donating blood, and like, well, yeah, you've excluded a whole, I don't want to say
group of
genre,
people who could potentially give blood, but you're just doing that because of something that happened in the 80s that is being fixed. It's not completely finished yet.
And the horrible thing about it is, if they were following their own rules and testing the blood before they give it to patients, or whatever you want to call it, they would pick up on it before they give it to it. So in a way, that's looking at it as like, well, you're saying that you've not got it, so we'll just take that at face value and just give it to a person. Whereas actually, they're meant to test it afterwards anyway. So I see it in the medical profession as actually being kind of lazy.
I don't know much about it, so I don't have much of an opinion. I just remember it being something that I was surprised by when I heard about it.
The same with you. I don't really have an opinion on it because
so
I've only heard what Gina's heard.
And I'm not proud of this, but I will tell this story. When I was there was another boy from my high school that was there who I know was a gay man, and he was there donating blood, and I went, you see that, and I'm ashamed to do it now, but I was fucking fuming, and it raised the point of it. It's like, he's just lied on that test. I'm telling you that he is a gay man because he's told me that he is, and now you're taking his blood.
Following that policy, though.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. If you're following that policy, hold up. So, and again, I wasn't proud of it, not proud of what I did, but hopefully, and again, I did, like Gina said, I think I saw it like probably even just last week in the news that they are changing the policy because they're realising, oh shit, we've not got enough blood for people, and for the last 40, 50 years, you've excluded an entire, set of people just because of, I hate to say it, I don't want to say it, but it's sort of Christian value, really, isn't it? When you think about it, because the Salvation Army and that sort of thing, like, they're based on faith, and I'm not going into this rant, but they're excluding people based on lifestyle, and that is not okay when it comes to medicine. That should never ever be a thing. But
so I'm just reading out on the reasons why.
Okay. You might have been hearing Gina type away while she researched this. Go ahead.
So just reading it from one of the NHS website. I've not read it yet. I'm just going to read it out as I'm reading it. So, can gay men give blood? Gay and bisexual men are not automatically prevented from giving blood. Currently, all men must wait 3 months after having oral or anal sex with another man before donating. Changed recommendations for this rule will mean men who have sex with men and had the same partner for 3 months or more will be able to give blood from summer 2021. So they are changing it.
Yeah.
They are making it much better. It's obviously not perfect, but no. I don't know the science behind it. I don't know the actual reason why they can't.
Yeah.
So I can't have an opinion on this because obviously as not a gay man as well.
No, but like, would you say that it should work the other way in the sense of like, well, if a straight couple have had penetrative sex, then the 3-month rule should be the same as well. Why is it just the gay men? Because
I think the risk is higher. I think that's probably why it's part of it. The risk is higher with gay men.
I'm sorry. I can't say that personally, I think that the stigmatism around STIs and STDs needs to be dropped. Like, a lot of them now are very curable and all this sort of thing.
I don't want to oversimplify it though.
No, but you can catch one just like you can catch a cold. You can. It's horrible, but you can. There are measures you can take to prevent things, but they're not always 100%.
Apparently there are other things that can potentially stop you from giving blood. So lifestyle and sexual activity.
Yeah.
Travel.
Yeah.
Illness and medication conditions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even getting a tattoo or piercing.
Yeah, because it contaminates your blood.
And an endoscopy.
You doubly can't do it. Or being Ash.
Yeah, maybe they just didn't want your blood.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Ew, and I'm going to turn to you.
No one does.
So I think when it comes to like media and gaming, we've pretty much touched on most. There are other games that we haven't mentioned. But
yeah, but
if we were to mention every single game that had any LGBT,
it'll be 5 years long.
But I think
we've mentioned our favourites.
Yeah,
we have.
But I think we can all agree that there's still a long way to go in regards to progress. There's still a lot that can be done to, again, I don't want to use the word, but normalise LGBT issues or
representation.
Representation. And it's horrible to say it, but unfortunately, tolerance for all is never probably going to happen. And it's horrible because what do you get out of hating someone?
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately,
luckily things are getting better.
Yes,
they are.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say like as the older generations fucking die out or whatever.
No, but opinions change.
If you're old, just die, please. Just die.
But as like different generations grow and
Yep.
learn, and they're coming into this world that is vastly different
Yes.
to the world that our grandparents and great grandparents and even parents came into as well.
Yes.
It's very, very different. I don't want to say it's more tolerant, because some places are more tolerant and some places aren't.
Yes.
Yes.
But it is getting better.
But I would also, and I'm going to again touch on a slight controversial issue, but I also think that people need to be understanding that some people might not get it. Like, for example, I'll give an example. When I was working at the bar, we had people that identified as grey gender.
I don't know what that is, actually.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard that one.
So I think grey gender, I think they explained it to me like they don't identify as either he or she. They want to go by they because they feel that they is their pronoun.
That's fine.
But obviously in English, for example, they doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And when I was
but
taking
if that's the
no,
pronoun
takes
that
some-
we should
no,
use,
but
then they
what?
should use
Let,
it.
let me finish. But when I was doing their orders and bringing their foods and stuff, because to me the way they presented was female, I kept accidentally saying miss.
Yeah.
And it wasn't and they got really angry with me. And again, I did keep apologising, and in the end, they had words and blah blah blah.
Well,
and
that's probably more on their side, because
Yeah.
if they're saying they want to be
Yes.
represented as they, you should listen to
yeah,
them.
but again, I apologise, but they still weren't okay with it.
I think
That's fine. They don't have to be okay with
No,
it.
but if people are genuinely trying and they make mistakes, I
Yeah.
don't think it's okay to raise a song and dance about it. Like, I think it's got to be the shoes on the other foot, that people need time to
To adjust.
It will
Yeah.
click. Bear with me. Because again, there is, I think, what was it? There's like 240 or something now representations
I
in
don't
sexuality.
know how many. I don't know what the actual number is. I'm not going to say yes or no.
So what I'm saying is that it has to work both ways, in that people that aren't intolerant should learn to be tolerant, but then
Yeah.
people who identify as, again, I use the term loosely, not the norm.
No, sorry, hang on. Not heteronormative. That's what I would like.
Yeah. You also need to allow time people to adjust.
Yeah, I think I understand their backs being up, because
Yes.
there are people out there that will it's the same if you legally change your name.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
have people that will probably still call you by your old name.
Yes.
Probably because they
Even
know
though
you
you've
before
legally
then.
changed it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it takes some getting used to. Like,
Yes.
we've known name changes, and it does take some getting used to. It takes
Yes.
time to get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I get where you're coming from, but
Yeah.
I can see it from both sides.
Yeah, but what my point was is that I was sorry, and I kept saying I'm really sorry that and the fact that I was apologising, but it still wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And that's my issue. Because if I was being a dick, fair game. But the fact that I wasn't being a dick and I was going, I'm really sorry. What I'm saying is that people that don't identify within, like you say, gender, binary, normality, however you want to pronounce it, you also need to give people time to adjust as well. You can't just expect people to be on board straight away. People are gonna have questions. People are gonna
Well, not necessarily that
what-
people are going to have questions, because that's not really any of their business to answer.
No,
those questions.
no, but
No, not
Really.
necessarily
no,
questions.
but with questions,
but,
again, when they were like, we prefer to be known as, I was like, oh, okay, then how should I call you? I didn't know
They
how.
just said they. Or
Yeah,
them.
but what I'm saying is that is the question, because I didn't know how else to word that. So you do have to allow for questions.
But I do get that as well, because there have been occasions where I've spoken to a customer and they don't go by the two binary genders,
Yeah.
and they've been like, actually, no, it's this, and I'm like, okay, sorry, I'll change it to whatever they prefer
Yeah.
to be called.
Yeah.
But what
I
I'm
think
saying
as long
is-
as it's a genuine mistake,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
mind, if I was in that situation,
Yeah.
I would understand.
Yeah, and like I said, I did slip a few, but every time I apologise.
Everybody's human, and everyone will do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
As long as you have
So-
apologised and adjusted
Yeah.
to make them feel
But
comfortable,
what I'm saying
then
is
that-
that's correct.
people that do identify in these new terminologies, and let's face it, that is what I will call it, because it is. People will say, no, it's been around forever, and it probably has, and it's only just coming to light. Fair play. But again, you do have to allow people to adjust, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
And
know,
people will adjust. We're always
Yeah.
progressing.
like for
We're always
for
adapting
example,
and progressing and stuff
I
like
mean,
that.
for example, we'll just use an example. Like if we adopted a kid one day, but we had a boy, and then boy turned to us and said they wanted to be a girl. For us, there would be the adjustment period because we'd go, well,
I don't think it'll be that much of an adjustment, to be honest.
No,
as long as the
but-
kid's happy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if we adopted a boy because we wanted a boy, and then said boy wanted
Well,
to
then
be a
again,
girl...
I had that fear when I came out to my parents because I was like, well, they have this idea of how they want their son to turn out, and obviously it wasn't what they expected. But the end of the day, when I did it, not really much changed.
No,
it was changed for the better, but like not my idea of how it was going to go on didn't happen, and their idea of what was going to happen didn't happen. So in the end, it was all good.
So just to, because we need to wrap up, but just to wrap up, the full acronym is LGBTQQIP2SAA, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, queer, intersex, pansexual, two-spirit, androgynous, and asexual. Now that's as of the 2nd of December 2018 on the website.
It doesn't count a couple of things in there. For instance, aromantic, is it dexisex?
Yeah,
no,
so
demisexual.
This might be an older one, but this is the one that's come up on that. This is the one that comes up, like the featured one on Google. That's the one that comes up. So there's probably more added to that.
I remember watching a documentary and it had like 12 other ones that was added on to the end of it. I was like, I'm glad it says LGBTQ plus because
we have the plus.
It'll take an hour to say all of them.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously, if you have any opinions or argue with us if you want to. In the
I'm pretty sure the chat at the moment is just going,
yay,
or going, oh my god, how could you? So.
Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's any other games that we've missed out that you feel like deserved a mention.
Let us know if there's any other sexualities we haven't mentioned.
Let us know if there's any games with LGBT that you'd like us to play.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good idea because we will be doing a load of LGBTQ plus friendly games in the month of February.
Yes.
And probably when it comes to like Pride and stuff like that as well. We are quite an LGBTQ plus friendly channel.
We do,
Half of us are in the community. So.
Yeah. Guess who the other one is?
Page 6 may surprise you.
So yeah, feel free to start a conversation with us in the comments, in the live chat of the premiere, or in Discord.
And I think a nice way to end this is, regardless of how you identify, there will be people that may turn against you, that might surprise you, but there will always be people that love you. You are valid.
You are valued.
You are valued. And
there'll always be a place at DTG for you if you need a laugh or if you need somewhere to vent.
And it's cliche to say it, if things seem really hard right now, it does get better.
And I just want to say as well, there are safe places.
Yes.
There are.
If you do not feel safe where you are, you don't feel safe coming out, you don't feel safe being the true you where you are, there are places that are safe for you.
Yes.
There are organisations that can help you as well.
Yes.
Yep. Even if it's just groups online that you can open up to.
Yeah.
Even something small like that can help.
And I think a nice way to only live your truth when you are ready to do so, and do not let anyone else dictate that to you.
Yeah.
You are you, written, directed, narrated, and acted by you. Nobody else.
Well.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us for the podcast.
Yeah. So I've been Ash.
I've been Finn.
And I've been Gina.
I think it's time to turn off the lights and power down.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.